allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico as the symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the first meeting of 2019 of the Edgewood Town Council. It's a regular meeting of January 9th. First item following Pledge of Allegiance is approval of the agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion we approve this evening's agenda.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and second to approve tonight's agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, council. Next item is the consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion on that.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve this evening's consent agenda.
Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
I do have one change to the minutes
Okay.
to add. Let me pass it out so you guys can read it. Basically, just clarifications to my comments that were made last meeting. So in two sections, in my counselor comments, and then also with the appointment of Ms. Janelle Turner, I just wanted to add in the details of what I had stated in those two sections. I went back and listened to the recording to make sure that it was accurate. So, and I let Carla know in advance.
Council want to accept these modifications to the minutes? Go ahead and approve them then.
Where would this be inserted?
In the minutes in those sections. So it's matters from the counselors A. So it would be 4CA. Inserting that first paragraph there with what I have. And then
5B.
5B. Third paragraph of 5B. So do we need an amendment? Do I need to state an amendment or second the motion? What do we need?
I would state an amendment.
Okay. Amendment to the regular council meeting minutes of December 19th, 2018. As shown in the handout, I move to approve these minutes with the amendment.
Councilor Abrams, will you accept that amendment?
Yes.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the consent agenda with certain additions to the minutes of the meeting of December 19th, 2018. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Thank you, council. Next item is discussion items, matters from Moriarty Edgewood School District Superintendent Teresa Salazar.
Good evening, everyone. Happy New Year.
Thank you.
That's glad to be back. The very first thing I'd like to do is congratulate you, Mayor, and your staff and the council for the great legislative breakfast that took place right before the break. It was very successful. It was very positive, and I think that we represented the Edgewood community very well in that. And so, great job. Thank you very much. I appreciate it, and thank you for including us in that. We passed out to you the district's legislative priorities. There has been one small change that was added to that since that time, so I'll give you a new copy and just tell you what it is. It's the addition besides 10 days to teachers' contracts, so it would be another 3 days for parent-teacher conferences. So moving a teacher's contract from 182 days to 195 days. So that was something that we will be sorry about that.
It's okay.
Thank you. I'll leave these over when I leave if anybody else wants to look at those. And the ultimate goal is providing students with as much instructional time as possible, along with still having that parent interaction. In the past, the parent-teacher conference days have counted as instructional time, so we want to give those 3 days back to instruction, and then those 10 days focusing on parent-teacher professional development as well as collaboration, and those will be throughout the year. So I don't know if any of you had any questions on that. I won't go back over it. I know that we kind of talked about that in length at the legislative breakfast, but I just wanted to give you that update. We actually, as a Superintendent's Association, will be tomorrow morning gearing up, kind of getting our game plan and really focusing on what we're looking for from the legislature for education. We're hopeful for big things because our kids need it and deserve it. And again, being one of the plaintiff districts, we have been actively involved in the guidelines and what we're looking for as far as short-term and long-term goals. So we'll be reporting back on that. The judgment has been filed. The judge did file the final judgment. If you would like to look at that, it's a 600-page document on the New Mexico law and poverty. That's the attorneys that are covering that, so it's the New Mexico Law and Poverty, and it's under their education section. We will actually probably be putting it on our district website, a link on that, so you can look at that. But it truly spells out exactly what a sufficient education would look like for our students in New Mexico. We feel very strongly that the LEFC had done a study that had been funded by the LFC, the legislature, to do the study, and 11 years ago, it was said that we were funding education 10% less than what it should be, and we've missed a whole generation of kids going through public education with an insufficient funded school system. So we're not willing to wait anymore. We want it done. We have our first court date back mid-April to see if the legislature and the session has gone well, and so as one of the 6 districts, we will be there giving feedback of what's been met, what hasn't been met, etc. So we'll be doing that and keep you up to date on how that's going. So any brief questions on that? Because you could talk all day about it. One of the other things that you're going to be seeing a lot of, we're going to be talking to businesses, really working to educate our community, is attendance and chronic truancy and absenteeism. That is something that has been a real push in trying to educate parents on just because it's an excused absence doesn't mean that it's an okay absence. They're still missing school. They're still missing out on the instruction. That homework and assignments at home can't meet the same rigor as being in a classroom. Some of the data, I don't know if you've seen Mission Graduate work that's been going on. We are on the Vision Council, have a seat at that table now, and we'll be participating in that and working with United Way, Central New Mexico's United Way, in different programs with our school district. The definition of what's the difference between chronic absences, where the warning signs are good attendance. The research shows that if a student misses more than 2 days of a month, that they are missing 10% of the school, and it's 10% less likely that they'll graduate just by missing more than 2 days out of the month. We're going to be talking about what's appropriate absences and not appropriate absences. What needs to happen, how we can come together as a community. So and those habits start in kindergarten. They start in preschool. Oh, preschool's not that important. Kindergarten's not that important. They can stay home today. Grandma's here. She's, it's kind of like she can stay home with grandma. Just those type of things that we need to be working on, and so that's an initiative that we will be working on with our students. So other than that, we're just starting a new year. We're very excited about it. I know that we need the moisture, but I was thrilled that we didn't have to worry about weather on Monday. And I actually got snowed out of Edgewood during the holiday, so I was telling John that we got snowed in Durango an extra 2 days, and it was like, oh, dang, we had to ski some more. It was bad. So, but we are happy with the moisture as much as we can get, but I'd prefer it to be on the weekends and not during the school week. So is there any questions I can help you with?
Have any questions for Ms. Salazar?
Great,
Thank
thank you very
Forward
much.
to reading this report and finding out if the report's assumptions about the need for more funding are adequate. Because I'm wondering if a report that was put together 10 years ago actually is adequate currently.
No, and it's not.
And I'm sure it's not.
And that's one of the things that through the work and with the experts that they've had go through and done the math of what it would be with inflation and everything else that was going on. So instead of it being 10%, we're up to 25% below what it should be. So,
Sure.
but it's kind of a dry read, but it's some interesting stuff. So,
Looking
but we'll
forward.
get that on our website, and then I will leave this on the counter. So, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next item is public comment on general matters. We've got several people signed up tonight. First is Cheryl Hupperts.
I just wanted to thank the mayor and Gene Bassett for the work they did on the roads when their employees were not able to, had been injured and couldn't get out there during this storm, and all the work they did.
Thank you.
Next person is Karen Kaiser.
I just had two quick comments prompted by the last meeting. One, I just wanted to say as a resident how much I appreciate Sherry Abraham doing her due diligence to make sure that we comply with any state law, whether it's the environmental department or any. I appreciate that, any elected official. I think a bare minimum is that we comply with state law. And secondly, regarding that meeting, it really unsettled me for, I don't know, the next day and maybe the day after that. I've raised one human and many dogs, and I have never yelled at them the way I heard Councillor Abrams yell. And I just think this is a workplace. It's a public hearing. I saw tonight, Mr. Mayor, that you have a gavel, and I just would respectfully ask, should the disagreement ever again rise to that level, I hope you'll bang that gavel and restore order, because disagreement is good. You're a governing body, you're allowed to disagree, but yelling, I just think it's an unacceptable way to conduct a public meeting. And third, I just had a quick question. I was so excited about Santa Fe County taking over our municipal elections, but I wasn't very well versed on the new law, and never in my wildest imagination did I think that it would allow you to extend your terms from March 2020 to January of 2022. My question is, what happens to those that were elected the 2 years later? Are they also extended 2 years, or does everyone get on the same schedule?
No, they're staggered over to 23.
Wow. I guess it saves money. There'll be one less election, but thank you. That was my question. Thank you.
Next person up is Linda Hill.
Hi, I just have one fast, quick comment. I just wanted to, last meeting bothered me pretty much too. I've lived and worked in this community for many years. I've done a lot of volunteering. I've done a lot of work for the town. And it did upset me that it was held, the way y'all bickered, I thought was very unprofessional. I think we could have a little bit better courtesy in our meetings, and I think we could be a little bit more ethical. And I just wanted to let you know, I just thought that it was really unethical, and it was not preceded and did not go very well with, I just was embarrassed for you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next person up is Louis Abraham.
I'm going to read mine so I don't miss the points. Bassett Abrams Holly, you don't deserve the title the citizens of Edgewood have given you. Your childish early preschool antics on December 19th, 2018 should have shamed you to the core. But your unethical and immoral ways will probably have your supporters give you a star on their Hall of Shame. All of you owe the citizens of Edgewood and Councilor Abraham a public apology for your deplorable actions and at the last town meeting. You're not fit for duty. What are you afraid of? Councilor Abraham uncovering while she does her sworn duties to protect the people's interest. Under the table spending, reroutes of sewage lines through the mayor's property, the thousands of dollars unsuspecting citizens will be charged to hook up to the sewage lines, mishandling of the sewage plant, borrowing of money to cover up illegal spending. What is it that you're afraid of? That you would publicly threaten, chastise, embarrass, demean, and sexually harass a sitting councilor in session? Are your little feelings hurt because you can't buy Councilor Abraham's vote? Are you hungry? Are you angry because Councilor Abraham wants to know what she's voting for before she votes, and not being asked after the fact to vote on something that the mayor has obligated the town to do before bringing it to the council? Are you disturbed that Councilor Abraham would not usurp her authority to the mayor so that he could operate outside full council knowledge? What are you afraid of? You had the town attorney, Randy Audios, present at the last meeting, who sat silent and said nothing to stop this kangaroo court. You had a representative of the non-independent tabloid who would only say that Councilor Abraham walked out of the meeting after a tense exchange with Bassett and Abrams about the town sewer system. That wasn't the story at all. You're all an embarrassment to the office you hold, and all three of you should resign. Citizens of Edgewood, beware.
Thank you, Mr. Abraham.
Next person is Bryce Simons.
First, I want to, excuse me, first I want to wish everybody a Happy New Year and hope you survive the snow drifts gracefully and comfortably. But with that, I'd like to go on, also on record, and I'm going to read this mostly because there's a lot of points here that I want to make. On December 19th, I came to the council meeting expecting a reasonably professional and normal program conducted with the appropriate focus on the best interests of the town. Imagine my dismay when it turned into an aggressive, belligerent attack on Councilor Abraham. Not only was the next 23 minutes not concerned with the best interests of the town or its citizens, but it turned into an all-out persecution of a councilor who was legitimately trying to do her job and to support the interests and concerns of her constituents. You even falsely accused her, Mr. Mayor, of turning us into the NMED. There's a strong appearance that the mayor and the town have been intently trying to hide or distort many important facts and issues related to the sewage treatment plant. It was this information that Councilor Abraham has been trying to find out, despite numerous unwarranted roadblocks and difficulties imposed upon her by the town. The town has even gone so far as to try and impeach her integrity and ability to get this information from the NMED by clouding the issue with claims of confusion caused by her efforts. However, there is no specific confirmable documentation of any confusion or time-related delays associated with any of these claimed confusions. So one is led to believe that these are nothing more than baseless efforts to hinder the legitimate efforts of Councilor Abraham in getting the information she is seeking. Additionally, it is an insult to the intelligence of the state people to insinuate that they're not even smart enough to recognize the difference between the efforts of Councilor Abrahams and the efforts generated by the town. I've worked for a bureaucracy, and I know that those are capable people. Once it became clear to you, Mr. Mayor, that your attempts to thwart Councilor Abraham's effort weren't going to work, you decided to throw a temper tantrum and try to bully her into submission through your diatribe at the December meeting. If you felt the need to chastise her and truly believe that you have the authority to do so, then this should have been done with one or two statements. Instead, it turned into a brutal, selfish temper tantrum. This attack would have continued indefinitely if Councilor Abrams had not stepped in to stop it. For that, I appreciate it. Unfortunately, Councilor Abrams, once you had the floor, you couldn't help but get your pound of flesh. Not only did you completely prevent her from responding, but you continued to berate her with your own opinions, finally ending up in a direct threat to her. It appears highly hypocritical that a person who is associated with a higher learning institution such as you are would make this kind of a claim. The normal perception of a university is one of encouraging comprehensive questioning and seeking of the truth. Yet you completely defied this perspective in condemning Councilor Abraham the way that you did. If there is anything even approaching a sense of fairness and maturity in either one of you, you will unhesitatingly and profusely apologize for this highly unacceptable behavior. However, I am not naive enough to expect that either of you will rise above your prevailing selfishness and arrogance. Additionally, I fully expect to be condemned for my response here by your proclamation that I don't know how town government works. So my criticisms are irrelevant. Finally, as one of Councilor Abraham's constituents, I strongly endorse her efforts to seek out all the details associated not only with the sewage treatment issues, but all of the town's functions, and encourage her to continue despite all of the bovine organic waste that is thrown in front of her. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Simons. Is anybody else who didn't sign up like to speak? Seeing none, we'll move along. Next item on the agenda is matters from the mayor. I've got a couple things. So we had our big snowstorm here, storms, plural. And I wanted to thank our grader operator, Pete Romero, for his hard work during both of the, well, all of them. There was about 3 of them lined up in a row. At the start of the storms and that, he was working by himself. Our other 2 operators had been in an accident down here on the day of the legislative breakfast, and they had to take a mandatory medical timeout before they could resume work on the plows. So to start off the first storm, and especially the start of the bigger second storm, Pete was by himself, and his service to our community was above and beyond the call of duty, and I want to thank Pete. And Norton, be sure and express to him that our gratitude for his work, because he comes all the way up here from around Tahiki and Torreon, and it's a struggle for him to get here sometimes just to do the job. And then the wind and that we had blowing that night, it was tough to get anything done. I'd also like to thank all of the many unknown residents of the town who took it upon themselves to use their own equipment and help their neighbors get plowed out and moving again. 2 of these gentlemen over here, Chief and Juan, both have little tractors that Chief, he hauled his in here to help clean some people out. Juan helped neighbors over in his area there. And I mean, that's kind of how the town works. You get into buying like that, and you just hope and you're, grateful for anybody that can get out there and lend a hand, and they did. And there's a lot of vehicles and trucks you've seen moving around. Kudos to all of them. They really did a good job. Council, one other thing then, on our next meeting for the 23rd, I'll be bringing in the yearly operating resolution to review and adopt for the new year. That's all I have, so the next item then will be matters from councilors. Councilor Jaramillo.
Thank you, Mayor. I just also wanted to wish everyone Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Had a good break, got some much-needed rest, and back hitting the ground running now this week. So I also have some comments, probably pretty lengthy here, in light of the events that happened at the last meeting. I'm going to address a few of the issues on my mind. I would like to see civil discourse and the dignity and the respect of this council and our town maintained. And so that's very important to me. I'll start off by giving a really quick story about something that happened to me personally in the course of my professional career. I was with a mentor. He was actually my managing partner at the time in the CPA firm I was working in. And we were discussing, business and different things, and a staff person, maybe she was an audit senior position, came up, and we were complaining and bemoaning, just kind of making some negative comments and discussing her performance. And then suddenly he just stopped and he got quiet, and then he just looked at me and he said, "Which of us is perfect?" And I didn't even know how to react to that, but it was a very pivotal moment in my perspective on things with other people. And so I always just think of that at, certain key points in time of, I am not perfect. I'm the least thing from perfect. I make mistakes, and we all make mistakes. And we can't expect perfection from others, and we have to understand that we're all flawed, right? So just with that kind of in mind, I'd like us to work together and strive forward with the differences that do exist. As I mentioned in my comments last time, in any governing body, you're going to have differences of opinion, and it does result in a healthy, as long as it's a healthy discussion, I guess is what I should say, then it makes for good government. But Councilor Abrams, I do have comments for you. You're the most senior on this council. And I have been shocked for the third time now at your condescending tone in your attempts to control Councilor Abraham with the use of anger. So controlling with anger, yelling, shaking your finger at people, telling people to cease and desist with their rightful comments, and making threats about other action you will take are unacceptable and abusive tactics. This really does create an atmosphere where people do not feel safe, unfortunately. Your behavior was frightening. Councilor Abraham should never have been in a position that she had to leave our last meeting, and I also had several complaints from members of the public who were very frightened of your behavior. I had previously asked you in another meeting some months ago to not rudely interrupt like that and to allow Councilor Abraham and I to have a voice. And, I just kind of wonder, would you have been speaking that way to another man? And I encourage you to find healthy ways to express your views in your opposition. Councilor Abraham is a strong woman who is valuable. She is your equal. She does not deserve that treatment. And finally, Councilor Abrams, if you have been aware of all these facts on the sewer that you say Councilor Abraham should have been also, why did you not follow up when the notice of violations from NMED was not being addressed? So the administration has stated time and time again that they didn't know about these violations with the transition in administration and mayors. You're saying at the last meeting that you did know about the violations and everything related to the sewer and didn't understand why Councilor Abraham wasn't aware of these things. So I just encourage you to exercise leadership in bringing issues transparently into the open so they can be addressed. If you knew about them, they should have been addressed. Councilor Abraham, I think you're the second most senior member of this council, so I have comments for you too based on everything that happened. I want you to know that I value you. I value every member of this council and of the administration as well. People, they're people, and people have their own viewpoints and opinions that do matter. We each have feelings, and as people, we must value each other. So I want you to know that I value you and your questions as well. I value your inquiries and your research because they give way to healthy debate and facts, which makes way for better government. And I don't see those things as a threat. I can also see other perspectives of other people here. So I guess my feedback for you is, for better or worse, Mayor Bassett is our mayor, and he will be making decisions that you may or may not agree with. But I always try to see the challenges of what he's working with, what exists, the history, the people, the limits of funding, the ordinances which were already passed in the past, approvals in the past, recommendations that the mayor may have received, maybe it's information that he didn't have, etc. So again, none of us are perfect, and running the town is not easy. I do encourage you to continue to straightforwardly state your concerns as you did when you answered the mayor at the last meeting in public meetings. You know that there will be times you must defer to the actions taken by the majority of council, but that does not limit you in representing the public, no matter what anybody says. So even in the minority, it is still within your rights to speak to people, request information, have meetings, as long as your role is properly disclosed, add items to the town's agenda for discussion, and to exercise your votes in meetings. And this is what our constituents expect of us, and I think you've heard some of the comments tonight applauding you for doing just that. So thank you for your questions. Mayor, I was worried at first when I saw this information in your comments in the packet, the agenda. However, in the end, I just want to say that I did think that the debate between yourself and Councilor Abraham was a positive thing because it started to get to the core of the conflict in a more open and honest way. So I think more, as I stated last time, I really do think that more discussion should be had in open meetings instead of assumptions being made on both sides, whether it's governing body members or the administration. It's better just to hash out these things, I think, in open meetings so that the facts can be known. There is something that I've learned over the years called the drama triangle. And so I'll share this with you quickly, but it's basically, we all do this with our families and our workplaces, and it's happening right here. Where people play victim, or they, play the blame game. They have always a persecutor, a rescuer, and a victim, and it's called the drama triangle. And it's really just not healthy to camp out on that drama triangle. I mean, it's better to work toward constructive solutions. So, we're not victims, I don't think, to people asking questions and requesting information. I don't think that anyone's viewpoint here makes us 100% bad or 100% good. I think that we all just need to see each other's perspectives and maintain civil discourse and respect. Mayor, you did mention that Councilor Abraham gave an IPRA request to the AG regarding the town, I guess. I personally believe an elected official should never have to resort to IPRAs. Please work with the administration during the budget process. I advocated for our new administrative assistant position for that very reason, and I stated right in the budget workshop that we needed someone to support management, to bring in more funding through grant writing, but to also support council with any requests so they can be answered more timely, because a lot of our requests weren't coming back timely. And so really with that new position, it should just not be a problem to get any counselor what they request. And so I asked this question: if we're dealing with truth and facts here, why does anyone care what Counselor Abraham requests? Why is it such a big deal? I don't understand the resistance. I don't understand why it's such a negative thing for her to be requesting information. And while you may think that Counselor Abraham's request creates hard effort and you are putting up with crap, quote unquote, I want to point out that you ran for mayor and that these employees wanted their jobs. And part of these roles includes serving not only the public, but serving each other as we represent the town. So, of course, the bad comes with the good and the hard with the easy, right? And we all just need to respect each other and serve each other. One of the big things as I've thought through this is an issue is communication. So, Mayor, I'm just asking that the communication be stepped up to increase executive level activities, communications with the council. I think that would help with trust. We should not be finding out about things after the fact or only after persistent inquiries. And so that's just kind of a common theme that I've noticed here since being elected. But in all, Mayor, thank you for bringing forward facts at the last meeting and kind of controlling yourself, your distress. I encourage more of these discussions, even though conflict really is uncomfortable. And then lastly, I want to read a quote from Thomas Jefferson about truth, about conflict, about argument and debate. And it just says, so Thomas Jefferson says, truth is the proper and sufficient antagonist to error and has nothing to fear from the conflict, unless, by human interposition, disarmed of her natural weapons, free argument and debate, errors ceasing to be dangerous when it is permitted freely to contradict them. And so, Counselor Abraham has brought to light errors in the past, such as the unconstitutionality of the sign ordinance and unlawful discriminatory proposed zoning changes regarding mobile homes, and errors in the payments to a vendor, which was the maids. These are all things, these are just examples, but these are all things which serve the public and protect this town, even if it is difficult to hear and deal with. And even though it appears to be negative, it's actually part of the duty of governance. And so if I'm following Jefferson's logic properly, from the quote, there really is nothing to fear from this conflict. And so, as counselors may disagree or may ask questions or they may request information, and yeah, maybe that shows the truth and shows some errors, there's nothing to fear from it, only the truth to be found. Argument and debate should be freely permitted. And so I think, just in closing, if we all communicate with each other better, without omissions, and just making an effort to be transparent and timely, full truths will be obvious. And when that happens, I think that the trust amongst the council will grow. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Abraham?
I have 3 individual items tonight that I would like to talk about. The very first one is my response to what happened at the last meeting. I would like to start off with an apology to the citizens of Edgewood for walking out of the last council meeting early. I would also like to clarify that due to my recent inquiries with NMED, it has come to light that we have been in violation of our groundwater quality permit number DP-1654 since September 3rd, 2016. We now have an obligation to correct all violations in order to avoid penalties of up to $15,000 per day per violation. The response submitted to NMED dated October 12, 2018 states these violations will be remedied by November 1st, 2019. To meet that deadline, I feel like we need some sort of a timeline. We need to know what the budget needs are and the funding sources so that we can be proactive to meet this deadline. At the last meeting, I was told to ask for what I need. So I am therefore requesting the following. I would like complete disclosure of all correspondence to and from NMED to all council members. I would like relevant correspondence to be discussed at the next council meeting after receiving that correspondence, if it is necessary for planning or decision-making. I would like to again request that we are provided a monthly wastewater treatment plant report, and I would like to request this be at the mid-month council meetings. On that report, I would like to include influent and effluent water characteristics from the plant as tracked by the NMED, including but not limited to, and these are some words that if you guys don't understand, I can explain them, BOD, TKN, COD, and TSS. Those are different things that needs to be reported to NMED to make sure we are in compliant with our ground quality water report. I would like on that report to have a monthly income from sewage treatment billings and itemized expenses. I would like the monthly reports on influent from each of the individual commercial customers prior to entering the collection system as required by ordinance number 2015-03, amended 2/17/2016, section 2.3, paragraph B2. I would like monthly update on each of the violations noted in the notice of violation, including recent progress, if any. I would like notification of any spills or equipment failure. I would like project updates, status of construction and timelines, and any connection requests and status of those connections. Number 3, I would like to schedule quarterly tours of the wastewater plant for any council member that wants to attend and any other interested citizen to monitor progress. I was at a meeting this morning where they talked about guidelines for ordinances, and one of the things they said is, who doesn't drive better when there's an officer behind them? And so that's what I'm asking for, just to monitor the progress. Finally, if we, all of us, are going to conduct ourselves in the manner in which we handled the council meeting on the 19th of December, we leave the people of Edgewood with only 2 choices as to how they perceive us as their representatives. We are either power-driven bullies in the schoolyard of city politics, or that there is corruption and we are not willing to be transparent. It is our choice whether we want to correct that perception or feed it. The public is watching us, as they should, and we are accountable for our actions or our lack thereof. And that's all I have to say on what happened at the meeting last month. I do have another citizen that I would like to recognize. It's been brought to my attention that John Giovenco was awarded the Pay It Forward Award by KOB Channel 4 for his service to our town during the recent storm. John and his wife Corinne are both great citizens, and they both are small business owners in our community. So I would like, if you happen to come across them, please congratulate them. And the final item is about the meeting that I attended this morning. It was the Mid-Regional Council of Governments Water Board Resources meeting. They had a special meeting because they are working on creating guidelines to help small municipalities or tribal entities or anybody without the resources of Albuquerque to address the issues as they come forth with the gas and oil exploration. They're not creating the ordinance, they're creating guidelines to help us create good ordinances if that ever comes up. If they ever decide to do some oil or gas drilling in the town of Edgewood, we will be able to go with them and follow their guidelines to help us come up with some good ordinances. So if anybody has any questions about that, feel free to contact me at any time. And other than that, that's all I have for this evening.
Counselor Abrams?
Well, I've got a few things going on here. Counselor Abraham?
Yes.
I would very much like to apologize for losing my temper. However, I find it very, very difficult not to lose my temper when I feel very strongly about things that are going on in our community and how things are going on. It is not a problem that I see with doing diligence in finding things out. That's our job. We are the stewards of the public's monies. We are the stewards of the public's works, etc. And it is our job to do that. It is, however, difficult to see that job through when sometimes there are disparaging things being said. I will leave it at that, but please accept my apology for my anger.
I accept your apology. And as you said last time, why didn't I call you to discuss wastewater concerns? That goes both ways. You feel free to call me anytime you have questions about my concerns.
To clarify, I am aware of how things were put together. I was not informed by the previous administration of the violations at all.
Okay.
Even being Mayor Pro Tem, which distressed me no end, believe me.
May I? That is one of my thought processes as to why each of us should have all correspondence. There should be no surprises in the future. If there's a turnover, if a counselor has to resign, anything like that, we should all be aware of what the current status of everything is. So,
Particularly when we have a deadline to meet.
yes.
On a completely different note, I would like to ask the administration to open a conversation with Santa Fe County directly to see what we can do to assist Santa Fe County in placing equipment in southern Santa Fe County to address some of the issues caused by our last set of storms. One of the problems that the town of Edgewood, and I really want to thank both the chief and our clerk treasurer and our road crew for the help that they gave to Santa Fe County during the last set of storms. One of the things the community probably doesn't know is that the fire department did not have snow removal available for their vehicles. And the town of Edgewood was asked to remove the snow and to help to clear Highway 344 so that our fire department could actually be operational. The problem, of course, is Santa Fe County's equipment was located far to the north of us. Some of the other members of southern Santa Fe County's extended community were snowed in for as much as a week. And I think that that is something that we need to address, both for health, safety, and just neighborly, getting things done for everyone in our community. If we can coordinate with Santa Fe County to locate some of their road equipment in our yard, I think that would be beneficial both to Santa Fe County and to the community and to the extended southern Santa Fe County area. Getting the road crews and the equipment to the eastern side of Santa Fe County took more than a week. And some of those people were in dire straits. So I think we need to work with Santa Fe County to bring that equipment closer, if not here. And I would ask that we do that as soon as possible, open that dialogue. With that, I think I'll hand it off to you.
All right.
Counselor Holly?
I've got some written remarks as well. First of all, and I'll be repeating what's already been said, but I want to thank neighbors for helping neighbors with snow removal. It happened in my neighborhood, and I've heard of numerous instances around town where that occurred as well. And I want to thank Clerk Treasurer Torres, Chief Crow, and the mayor, who also cleared driveways and roads using personal equipment and on their own time. And I think that's what I like about living in Edgewood, the sense of community and being there for your neighbor. So I really saw the best of our community during the snowstorm. Moving on, last Saturday, I held my third quarterly citizen input meeting at the community center, and I'd like to thank those who were in attendance. We had a good dialogue and exchange of ideas. Positive suggestions were made, such as the suggestion of developing a network of individuals who might be able to assist with snow removal if we need it in the future. Another suggestion that resonated with me was to hold, it was called a town hall event, where town departments are represented and available to provide information and meet informally with our residents. Something structured kind of like a school science fair, if you've been to something like that. The community garden planning meeting that occurs the first Thursday of each month was canceled in January, but it has been rescheduled. Well, it'll be held again in February at 1 o'clock at our senior center on February 7th. The Gopher and Rabbit Pest Management Workshop that was scheduled for January has been rescheduled. Same day, February 7th. This will be following the garden planning meeting. This workshop will be at 2 o'clock on February 7th. Another reminder, I know I've said it before, but there's others here in the audience that may not have heard. NMSU will be offering a Master Gardener program starting February 7th, and it will be a 16-week course. Classes will meet from 6 till 9 p.m. each Thursday, starting February 7th through May 2nd, and they will be held at the DWI Memorial of Perpetual Tears building in Moriarty. Cost is $120, which includes all course materials, and a deposit of $60 is due by January 24th. That's the registration date to reserve your seat. So if you need more information about that, please contact the Torrance County Extension Office. I think that's all I've got.
Thank you, Counselor. Next item is matter from the Clerk Treasurer, Mr. Torres.
Mayor, Council, I just wanted to let you know about the RFP for legal services. So we issued the RFP on November 11th. They were due November 26th when the committee met. We had only received 2 proposals. The committee felt we should resubmit in order to get some additional proposals, and then we also included the scope to include the New Mexican, so we advertised out there to try and, Santa Fe firms as well. We re-advertised on December 2nd and December 17th, that was the deadline. We had the same 2 firms submit their proposals, so we went ahead with it. The 2 firms were German & Associates and Robles Rael and Anaya. The committee selected Robles Rael and Anaya for the contract. That was the notice of award that was sent out. We're currently in the protest period, and we will have a contract ready shortly. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Torres. Next item is action items. First one up is public hearing, legislative. And this involves proposed changes to the zoning ordinance as it relates to secondary quarters. Ms. Mortensen, let me read my thing off here. Need to request certification that public notice of this hearing by the governing body has been posted as required.
Yes, it has.
This is a legislative public hearing called for the purpose of considering proposed amendments to ordinance 2014-02 zoning ordinance of the town of Edgewood as it relates to secondary quarters. Requirements for a legislative procedure differ from quasi-judicial procedures in several important respects. Members of the governing body may conduct their own research into the proposed ordinance. They may consult with members of the public outside the meeting and may advocate for personal opinions and/or those of constituents. I want to do a confirmation by members of the governing body that they have no pending land use applications which might benefit from proposed changes to the ordinance. Start here with Councilor Hawley. Do you have any conflicts of interest or?
I have no conflicts of interest.
Thank you. Councilor Abrams?
I have none.
Councilor Harmio?
I have no conflicts of interest in this matter.
Councilor Abraham?
I have no conflicts of interest in this matter.
And for myself, I have no conflicts of interest in this matter. The concern is that this hearing be fair in form and substance, and to that end, all public input and governing body deliberations will primarily consist of remarks about the proposed ordinance revisions. References to historical and/or the legal context are appropriate so long as they are clearly related to items in the proposed ordinance revisions. Furthermore, all discussion will be offered in a manner which is consistent with the Town of Edgewood's adopted resolution for conducting business. Lastly, all persons wishing to give public input concerning the provisions of ordinance 2014-02 being considered for revision tonight are not required to be sworn in, since adoption of an ordinance is a legislative matter. For those of you wishing to give public input, your input should be confined to the issue at hand and limited in length so as to allow for other speakers to comment as well. Ms. Mortensen, give us a little background on this and tell us what it is you're seeking to do here.
Sure. So the history is, the ordinance reads right now, the original plan in the ordinance was to have one dwelling unit per lot. The way it reads, the intent, the purpose of this zone district is to provide for the development of residential neighborhoods consisting of singular dwellings and certain other uses which are compatible to the residential character of this district. Density shall be limited to one dwelling unit per lot. However, you go underneath permissive uses, B, number 8, there's a short piece that says secondary quarters that serve as a single detached extension of the primary dwelling unit that are used exclusively for living and sleeping purposes. So, but that's all it says. So what does this cause without having anything else along with that? What it causes is it increases density without regulation, which leads to bad development, and that causes issues for the neighborhood and for future residents that may purchase that lot. So what did we do? We had many meetings to discuss this and threw all sorts of ideas out. We were going to bring it here. Councilor Abraham found some problems with it, so we took it back and we cooked it a little longer. We heard from concerned residents from the town that were concerned with secondary quarters anyway, and a few of them were realtors. And they let us know what their concerns were. So what we did was we brought in experts to educate us on septic, building onto, say, manufactured houses. We weighed in on what happens with emergency response if the access isn't good enough to get to a secondary house. So that deliberation led to, we would make it fair across the zones of R1, R2, and R5 if we made it all a conditional use. That way, the neighbors can weigh in on the increase in the density in their neighborhood. And that would also lead to not only the Planning and Zoning Commission putting eyes on everything, because the more eyes on it, the more they can see. We would also have a TAC meeting, which would bring in, you know, Santa Fe County Fire, myself, code enforcement, and Norton, if there's any access issues there, driveway issues, things like that. I think that we've done really well. In there, I'll just go through it really fast. Secondary quarters that serve as an attached or detached structure no more than 850 square feet and is used exclusively for living and sleeping purposes. Secondary quarters must use the wastewater system that serves the primary residence. The existing system can be modified within the parameters defined by NMED for the size and configuration of the proposed secondary quarters. Secondary quarters must be constructed in a manner that is compliant with CID structural and electrical standards. And secondary quarters must use the same driveways and roads used to access the property of the primary dwelling.
I have a question.
Okay.
My question is, there is nothing that says, it says an attached or detached structure, okay?
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing that says anything about the physical location or any of the other lot designations as far as setbacks?
Setbacks, right.
So I'm assuming, since there's nothing there that says anything like that, that it still has to meet whatever the structure is, attached or detached,
Mhm.
it has to meet those setback structures?
Yes,
Those-
that's in the district standards.
Right, just
Further
below
on.
it there.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that is the history and where we wound up here.
And essentially what it looks to me, a couple times here, you've inserted that same verbiage into, let's see, R1, C5, let's see,
Which is R2.
R2, C, I guess C5 there. Or is that just point, or 5 on all of them?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
R1, C5,
Yeah.
same thing for R2,
And then,
5.
you've got back here the conditional uses and a little bit more on that. Explain that one.
So, we have in our zoning ordinance a section for R4. We have a place on our legend on our zoning map for R4, but we don't have R4. So you would have to look for any R5 information on conditional uses, you have to go back to R4. I thought it'd be better just to, instead of refer back to R4, we would just put all that wording in R5.
Okay, so this is mostly the same verbiage as what's in R4?
Yes.
Okay. With the addition of number 5, secondary quarters.
Yes.
District standards and that remain the same?
Yes.
My question is, under Section 16, R5 Residential Mixed Use Zone, I see that you have several dwellings that are site-built, and you've crossed out manufactured and put mobile homes. So if it's not a site-built house, and it's not a mobile home, meaning a travel trailer type thing, what are you doing with manufactured homes?
Well, what it says there, so there's rules for mobile homes, because they don't make mobile homes anymore, you know. That's
Right.
not an RV. A mobile home is something that was built, I believe, before 1970. Yeah. So that's why we crossed it out, because they can still have those, but only for a year while your house is being built, or a house that complies with the ordinance. So you can only live in a mobile home for that long. So that's why, because it said manufactured home, but that was confusing to people because manufactured homes are allowed.
Okay, but if you have a site-built house, if your house is not a site-built house or a mobile home, don't you need that in there as well? It needs to be site-built and manufactured and mobile homes, or no?
No, because this is under conditional, so what it says there, so the following may be allowed in this zone district only upon the granting of permit. Number 4, mobile homes, provided however that the use of any mobile home as a secondary or accessory dwelling to the site-built primary dwelling shall be limited to a period not to exceed 1 year. So you can live in a manufactured home, you can only live in a mobile home for a year.
I'm looking at Section 16, the intent.
Oh, I'm sorry.
R5 residential mixed use, the intent, you've crossed out the word, so it basically says.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, so you need to have, don't you need manufactured, site-built, and mobile?
Yeah, you're right. We
Okay.
crossed out that manufactured and shouldn't have. I apologize. Okay, we can make that correction.
So it would be site-built, comma, manufactured, comma, and
Yeah.
mobile homes.
It wouldn't be mobile homes in the
No,
in
it
the
wouldn't be, it
intent.
would just be manufactured.
Manufactured. Mobile will be under conditional use for only
Okay.
the time
Yeah,
period of
so
1 year.
scratch mobile there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
I don't have any questions, but I just wanted to invite Commissioner Felton, if he has any comments, feel free.
It is a
No.
public hearing, Counselor. Hold on a second there. So go ahead. If council's got any questions for Ms. Mortensen?
That was my only question.
Okay. Anything else? So it is a public hearing, so any members of the public wish to address this proposed changes to the zoning ordinance, now's the time to step up. That includes members of the P and Z if you want to say something.
I just wanted to let council know that we spent a lot of time deliberating this secondary housing, and we did have people from the public at some of our meetings request that we work on some sort of secondary housing for mother-in-law quarters, or sometimes our young child that grows up but doesn't want to move to Albuquerque, that there might be something that would make it a little easier for them to have a little bit of a housing of their own. So we really worked hard on this, so I hope that we can pass it tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hubbard. Anybody else? Okay, seeing none. Close the public portion of it. So, Ms. Mortensen, what else do you have to say about it?
I will just echo what Commissioner Hubbard said. We did put a lot of work into this, and we milled it over for a long time and went back and forth. And I'm very proud of what we brought. I think it's fair. I think it's going to help a lot of people. You know, we're not saying no to anything, but there are some stipulations that I think will, you know, it will increase density, but as long as it's planned well and well thought out and the septic is taken care of, then I think it'll be good.
I have one question. If the residential sewer system comes in and makes connections to several of these R5 zoned issues, would we then need to relook at that again?
I don't think so, because the way we worded it, we put wastewater system, so that can be either septic or the sewer line.
5 acre. Well, I like how it addresses the issue. I mean, we've lacked something like that in there to speak to how it would work. And the stuff there, like about the meeting with CID structural and electrical standards, till I'd heard Mike Lenz talk about that, I didn't realize what the differences there were, but that's important that that be included in there. So, council, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we accept the changes as it relates to secondary quarters to the ordinance 2014-02 zoning ordinance.
Second.
Change. We do need to note this change on section 16A.
Oh, yeah, with the
Yes.
change made. And I do want to say thank you. I mean, you know, I know there have been some problems in the past when we had issues, and I do want to say thank you for getting it right.
You're welcome.
Motion's been made and seconded to accept the changes to ordinance 2014-02 zoning ordinance, Town of Edgewood, as it relates to secondary quarters, with the proviso that in the Section 16R5 residential mixed-use zone, let's see here, we list out site-built and take the line out of manufactured and scratch through mobile, take that out of there, so that it reads site-built, comma, and manufactured homes. That got it right?
Yes.
Okay, we'll do it on a roll call vote. Start down there. Counselor Abraham?
Aye.
Counselor Jaramillo?
Aye.
Counselor Abrams?
Aye.
Counselor Holly?
Aye.
Thank you, Counsel. Counselor, if you want to turn that thing off anytime, I'll appreciate it. Okay, the next item then is a discussion, consideration, and action on resolution number 2019-01, a resolution establishing a schedule of fees and other assignable costs related to the zoning ordinance within the town of Edgewood, Santa Fe County. This resolution here would repeal and replace two previous ones, 2004-17 and 2014-24. Ms. Mortensen.
So we spend a lot of time on the ones that we wanted to increase. And that's the reason for the increase. When we do development reviews, it's not just, yeah, this looks good, go do it. So we have to look at, make sure that person that's coming in is actually the owner of the property. So we look at Santa Fe County Assessor. We look to make sure that it's not in a flood zone, and if it is, then there is a certain way that they have to raise it to be built. So there's a lot of work that goes into it. Sometimes we have to have a TAC meeting on some of them. So I just thought that we would raise the fees to the work, to match the work that's being done.
I have a question. Who are the engineering consultants for the town these days?
Yolanda at BHI.
Yeah, Mayor Council.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
We have 5 on-call engineers that we can call on to do grading and drainage review. The last time it was done by an engineer, for us, it was Yolanda Padilla with Bohannon Houston.
Yeah.
Would
That
it
was on the
make-
school.
Would it make sense for us to go out for RFP to have a full-time engineer that we can go to for everything?
We are going to go out to RFP again soon, and Juan can speak about this because we're coming up on the end of that contract, but having 5 different engineers to pull from, I think 3 or 4 on-call engineers, gives us a good variety and a good choice. They all have different specialties. Sometimes you don't have one engineering firm that specializes in everything a municipality needs. So I've found it useful. I'm not sure, Juan, if you have, but we have a choice of about, right now, 4 companies, and they all have different specialties, and I think that works well for us. But Juan, you can speak to that.
Yeah, Mayor, Council, Carla's exactly right. I mean, not all engineering firms specialize in, plan review, grading and drainage. Some specialize specifically, wastewater, roads, different things of that nature. So when we issue the RFP for engineering services, we just issue a general on-call, and then have the different firms apply. And then when we select the firms, then we have firms with different specialties. That way we're not stuck with one engineer who then has to farm out his work to another engineer to try and do it. So if we are able to pick up, 4 or 5 firms that are competent and capable in certain fields, that just makes it better for the town and gives us more selection.
Do you feel that led to the groundwater quality report falling through the cracks? Not to have one engineer that oversees the town of Edgewood's everything?
I don't,
Mayor, Council, I guess at the time of that violation that came out, the town only had one engineer.
Right, who knew about
And we were never informed of that, but I don't think that has any merit, I guess, on the fee structure, but, yeah, that we only had one engineer at the time, and then we were never brought up or apprised of any permit violation.
That doesn't pertain to this at all, but it just raises to me concern that if we're using different engineers for different things all the time, it's kind of like when you go to see a specialist for every part of your body, but then who looks at all of you? I guess that's my concern is, do we have an engineer that looks at Edgewood? And then don't most engineers have engineers, most engineer firms have engineers on staff that do specialize in different things?
Mayor, council, no, not all engineering firms have an all-encompassing staff that'll cover every aspect of engineering.
That's a concern to me.
So, Ms. Mortensen, which are the ones that you've targeted here for raising as variance?
Not sure where the red line one is, but, so the ones that would go up, if that's what you're asking me, let's see, conditional use permit would go up $25. Development review would go up $50. Variance would go up, which I think variance right now is $50. I don't know why this Exhibit A fee schedule says $25, but it would go up $25. And zone change would go up $50.
Okay,
And then also the master plan, initial master plan would go up $100 from $300 to $400. That is a monster, a lot of work on master plans.
Yeah. Council have any other questions for Ms. Mortensen regarding this?
Oh, and one more thing,
Resolution?
I'm sorry. The master plan amendment, we did not have that, and we created one because there's so many master plans in Edgewood. We created an application to amend a master plan and a fee.
Okay.
So that's new.
Yes.
am I looking at the wrong thing? Because I'm seeing this big partial in red that talks about right-of-way excavation and restoration permit.
Oh, that was a call for, that's a call for
Okay,
a hearing
okay.
for next
And I'm
meeting.
looking at the wrong thing, so. Okay.
Council, if you don't have any other questions, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion, we approve resolution number 2019-01, a resolution adopting a schedule of fees and other assignable costs related to the administration of the subdivision and zoning ordinances within the town of Edgewood, New Mexico.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve resolution number 2019-01, a resolution adopting a schedule of fees and other assignable costs related to the administration of the subdivision and zoning ordinances within the town of Edgewood, New Mexico.
I still have some more questions. Okay, so these fees that went up, the grading and drainage fees that went up, are actually discussed in the wrong document that I was looking at. So, did we not have grading and drainage fees?
Well, what I will tell you at the next meeting, but I'll tell you now, is when I was going through to change the grading and drainage ordinance to put in what Norton needs for excavation, the ordinance still had all the fees crossed out. They never fixed that. So in what you're going to see at the next meeting and vote on is uncrossing them. I'm not raising the grading and drainage fees. Everything is just on here. There was and I saw it on Carla's desk, and it just didn't make it in the packet. There was a red line where you could see which ones were being changed. So,
And that's what I'm looking at, that is going to be a call for hearing.
yeah,
But in the one we're adopting tonight, they're already there.
they're already there. Yeah, that's just a complete schedule of fees And not all of them went up,
Okay.
only a certain few.
Mr. Mayor, may I amend my motion to add this resolution would repeal and replace ordinance 2004-17 and 2014-24?
Yes, ma'am.
No further discussion, we'll do a roll call vote. Start there. Counselor Jaramillo.
Aye.
Counselor Abrams.
Aye.
Counselor Holly.
Aye.
Counselor Abraham.
Aye.
Thank you, counsel.
Thank you.
Next item is a closed session. As per motion and roll call vote pursuant to NMSA 1978, Section 10-15-1H2, the following will be discussed in closed session, limited personnel matters. Counsel, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion, we go into closed session pursuant of NMSA 1978, 10-15-1H2 to discuss limited personnel matters.
Got a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to go into closed session. We'll start on this end. Counselor Holly.
Aye.
Counselor Abrams.
Aye.
Counselor Jaramillo.
Aye.
Counselor Abraham.
Aye.
We're in closed session.
Very quiet.
Okay, we're back. Let's resume our open session. I'll entertain a motion to resume open session and give us a statement about what was discussed.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion, we come back into open session.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded to go back into open session. We'll do a roll call vote. Start here. Counselor Holly.
Aye.
Counselor Abrams.
Aye.
Counselor Jaramillo.
Aye.
Counselor Abraham.
Aye.
Now the,
Mr. Mayor, I would like
The
to
word for it.
affirm
for
that in closed session pursuant to NMSA 1978, Section 10-15-1H2, only limited personnel matters were discussed and no decisions made.
so we'll ask for affirmation from Counselor Abraham,
I so affirm.
Counselor Jaramillo,
I so affirm.
Counselor Abrams,
Aye, so affirmed.
Counselor Holly.
I so affirm.
For Mayor Bassett, I also so affirm. Okay, calendar review is next. Next council meeting will be the 23rd here at 6:30, and 21st, we will be closed for Martin Luther King Jr. holiday. So I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. What's the time? 8:22.
5-ish?